recording. I interrupt myself. Thank you so much for being here. We know that there's a lot of information that we share in this info session. So just you will have the recording. We will send it to you after the presentation is over. The goal of this info session is obviously for you to know what we do as FinTech Cadence, what IFH Lab is about, program overview, curriculum, if you get selected, what is the programming that you'll be going through, the network that we have built through IFH, and the services that the program offers. Next steps, and obviously Q&A. However, as Molly said, if you have any questions, feel free to raise your hand or use the chat function. And please mute yourself if you haven't. Next slide. So has anyone heard of FinTech Cadence before? Raise your hand. I see some familiar faces from the certificate, from other programs that we have had in the past. I even see experts here that have joined FinTech Cadence programs before. But if you haven't, FinTech Cadence, we are a nonprofit that supports startups and different stakeholders in the ecosystem. We operate throughout Canada. We have our main office is here in Montreal, but as well we have an office in Toronto, which is led by Molly. And we have as well different partners in Atlantic, the Prairies, and in the West. And our main mission is we help advancing the financial system to serve all Canadians for the better. Our pillars and as well our services are rooted in education, support, and collaboration. In education, we have our certificate, which is a program in which we teach the fundamentals of the FinTech world. It's a formal program that we run every winter. We as well work with universities in encouraging curriculum in FinTech and researchers on support as well, which is the one that you may be more interested in. We support early stage startups in very specific goals that they have, and as well in their overall journey. Just for us to be aligned, when we say early stage startups, we mean pre-series A stage startups, which is usually those ones that have raised less than 1 million in diluted funding. If you are above this, you may be a bit too advanced for our programs. However, we'll be happy to talk and to see how we can help you. Our different partners that we work with. And the third one is collaboration. We collaborate with different stakeholders in the ecosystem, such as regulators, financial institutions, to make sure that the FinTech ecosystem is well supported and that is cohesive overall. Our programs, I mentioned before, the FinTech certificate in our education pillar. As well, we have our Ascension program that is taking place right now, in which we support startups that are aiming to raise funds within the next 12 months. Our FinTech Challenge, that is a program that we have every fall, and it's a case competition. So if you want to join as well, we'll have all of the information in our social media newsletter very soon. IFH Lab, which is where you are coming from, and FinTech Hub, which is our in-demand program where we support startups all over Canada in FinTech with experts and different resources. Our events, FinTech Brings, which I will come in a moment. It's an event that we have every quarter. It's in person, it's online as well, in which we talk about different topics that are trending in the FinTech industry. We have our university series and our FinTech Career Fair, which are programs to support students and the education ecosystem in the intersection with fintech. Want to learn more? Obviously, as I mentioned before, join our newsletter, and if you haven't, our social channels. We will have a FinTech Hub online speed dating session. Even if you are not part of the FinTech Hub, it will take place Wednesday. So if you want to know more information about it, let me know. But what I can tell you, very high level, we will match the startups with industry experts in different topics, just to have one-on-one conversations about any challenge you're having currently with your startup, whether that's marketing, finance, or product, or whatever that is. And our next event that we have is FinTech Drinks, that, as I mentioned before, is an in-person event. It's a, Sanka said, super cool. We'll have a panel, there will be drinks, food. If you will not be in Halifax, which is where it's taking place June 8th, you can as well join online through Hopin. There's the link, but I will add it as well on the chat, so you have it. And those are our events that we have in the next month, and I will
Perfect.
I will hand it over to you, Molly. Sorry, I was reading the chat.
No worries. Thanks, Maria. So now what we're all really here for, we're going to talk about this year's IFH Lab program. So the IFH Lab, it stands for Innovate Financial Health Lab. There we go. Decided not to work. It might jump ahead 3 slides now. We'll see. So the IFH Lab was started back in 2019. Recognizing the need, the fact that Canadians need culturally relevant, affordable, appropriate financial products and services, and that there was a gap in the market. So back in 2019, my then colleague at the time, Elvis Wong, started Innovate Financial Health as Canada's first incubator for fintech startups driving change in financial inclusion and financial resilience. We ran a cohort in 2020 of 4 amazing startups, and no equity, no fees, targeting startups that are using technology to improve the financial lives of Canadians, consumers, and SMEs. It was incredibly successful, really fun to run. And we decided that we wanted to continue doing it. So we ran the first cohort in 2020, and we had started talking with a little organization called FinTech Cadence. And we sort of came to the conclusion that to best help startups in the space, it made sense for us to merge and join forces. And so IFH became IFH Lab, a program under FinTech Cadence in 2020. And when we ran the first IFH program, we did some research ahead of launching, and we spoke to a number of startups who were in this sort of financial health, financial inclusion space. And we identified in our conversations with them some key challenges that they were facing as impact-driven founders and startups. And so you're looking at these 4, and they're both they're not sort of specific to financial health startups: lack of access to industry-specific expertise, challenges navigating and establishing partnerships with FIs, investment and fundraising, and also slow consumer adoption of fintech, which was more true at the time than it might be now post-COVID. So they're both sort of general issues that fintechs face, but we found in speaking with founders that there was some really specific ways that those played out for founders of impact-focused startups. A lot of founders talked about the sort of fear of mission drift, talking to investors and talking to mentors and potential partners who wanted them to change course when it came to sort of their business model or go-to-market strategy to reach profitability sooner, but at the expense of their customer base that they hope to serve, or at the expense of their mission. and really, or for example, if they were building products that were sort of specifically addressing the needs of, say, newcomers to Canada, speaking with partners or investors or others in the ecosystem who didn't actually understand that the problem they were trying to solve was a problem because it was sort of outside the mainstream or not familiar to them, and struggling to find people who could provide them support to help them grow and scale, while also not sort of threatening their focus on financial inclusion and financial health for Canadians. So that's the sort of history of why we decided to start IFH. And since our first cohort in 2020, we've run 3 cohorts. This will be our 4th, and we've worked with 20 startups to date. And we've had some amazing results. So collectively, the startups who've gone through the program have raised over $54 million, including 2 Series A from our 2 of our startups in our first cohort, PolicyMe and Zayzoon. They've worked with or helped over 100,000 Canadians through their platforms. They've built their teams out quite substantially, creating about 70 new positions and growing. PolicyMe and Zayzoon, I think, are both actively hiring at the moment. If you attended the Bankers Summit or the Payments Canada Summit recently, you would have seen Jonah from Wovio speaking. He's been really making the rounds at conferences. He recently placed second at the Calgary FinTech Awards and has been making waves. Cuber just brought on their second big corporate partner in the States. They're now working with KFC as well as Levi's to offer their employees help building emergency savings as well as financial literacy supports. And Zayzoon as well was named the top partner of the North America's largest payroll firm. So some really amazing work being done by the startups that we've had the pleasure of working with over the last 3 years. So, why we're here, I've sort of touched on this: supporting solutions using technology to improve financial health and financial inclusion of Canadian consumers and small businesses, particularly those who are most underserved or financially vulnerable, providing support unique to the needs of mission-driven founders, and helping founders find their pathway to traction, growth, and profitability, whether that's as a venture-backed company or a bootstrap company. And I think in current conditions, many startups are looking to build traction and bootstrap rather than going the venture route immediately. And I think that's a smart decision. So let's dive into IFH Lab 2023. What does the program look like? So it's 4 months this year. So for those who are familiar with the program from past years, there's some changes, some exciting new changes that you might notice as we go through. So the program is 4 months this year. It'll start end of July, and run through to November. The cohort will be 8 startups, and it's a hybrid program. So it's offered online and in person. And I'm really excited about the in-person elements. And just a reminder, please feel free to jump in with questions at any point, or raise your hand or type in the chat, and Maria can flag if there are questions in the chat for me. So the basics, what's involved in the 4-month program? There's sort of 3 key pieces: mentorship. So we have a network of over 100 mission-aligned industry experts who represent industry leaders and folks from investors, large financial institutions. So I think all of the large FIs in Canada, a number of the credit unions as well, nonprofits in the financial resiliency space, regulators, and many others sort of in and adjacent to the financial services sector. Across the 4 months of the program, you'll meet with likely upwards of 70 or 80 industry experts who are involved in the program. You'll have an opportunity to meet one-on-one with them, as well as in various networking events, like our demo day, where we usually our demo day / launch party, where we usually get about 150 people attending. In terms of programming, so as I mentioned, there's an in-person element. So there will be a 2-day orientation sort of boot camp in July, a mid-program in-person touch point, and the demo day in November. And I'll go into more details about all 3 of those just shortly. And then virtually, there's a number of sort of different elements, one-on-one support, fireside chats with founders of scale-ups and successful startups, and then individualized guidance as well throughout the program from the FC team. And then lastly, but certainly not leastly, and that's not a word, it's a word I just made up, the community. So I hear consistently from our founders that this is one of the sort of biggest pieces that they value the most from the program is the peer network. So the cohort that you get to be a part of, as well as the network of 20 alumni startups and growing. A lot of our founders continue to stay in touch post-program. They partner with each other. They find ways to support each other's startups, and yeah, continue to kind of stay in touch, which I think is really wonderful. And then, as I mentioned, our demo day and sort of broader network of folks that you get access to. So outside of that, a couple of things to highlight. There is no registration fees, so there's no fees for the program, and we do not take equity through participation in the program. So just want to really highlight that piece. You get access to over $100,000 in service provider credits. We're constantly growing our service provider partners. So you can check out, I think, fintechcadence.com/service-providers, I think, to see the full list, but we're constantly building it and really welcome. So if a startup comes to us and says, hey, do you have this person on as a service provider? If we don't, we will actively do the work of reaching out and trying to bring them on as a service provider. So $100,000 and growing, as well as like legal partners, copy editing, and sort of other services like that as well. You get access to the FinTech Cadence Slack community and post-program support. So I'm in touch with all of the founders that have gone through the program over the last 3 years directly. I reach out to them regularly and ask how I can help, and they reach out to us and ask for support still. And that's really important to us that is the case. And then I also want to highlight that I see the program as being a great opportunity as well for non-founding team members to get involved, to build their leadership capacity and skills. So non-founding members are welcome to take part in all aspects of the program. I encourage it. I think that it's a great way as well to build cohesion amongst your team in the early days, so that when you grow and your team starts to grow, you have really a solid base to work from. In terms of eligibility, so a demonstrated commitment to improving the financial lives of Canadian consumers and/or SMEs, at least one full-time employee, with a bit of a caveat there that I have some flexibility on that, because I do recognize that many founders work another job to support as they build their companies. A product in market with some users, including test users or pilots, incorporated in Canada, or planning to. I don't think that's an issue for anyone on the call, though, today. And importantly, can commit to full participation in the program in the 4 months of the program. So I'm going to pause there. Any questions before I move on? Seeing no hands raised.
I have a question, Molly, sorry.
Yeah.
In fact, I have 2 questions. First is, can a nonprofit apply for the project?
Yeah, absolutely. Great question. So as I mentioned that we, whether you want to be VC backed or bootstrapped, know, like that we don't care as an organization, that we want to support you in whatever that journey looks like. But similarly, if you want to build a nonprofit that is using technology to help Canadian consumers and SMEs, by all means, we'll work with you to figure out how we can best support.
Okay, perfect. The second question is, can we come to the program with several technology projects? Because for us, let's say we have a fintech we are developing, and also a NetTech, financial literacy platform. Can we submit both those projects to the IFH, sorry?
Like as separate applications?
No, like we as Code F, because the business is Code F, we want to be part of the cohort.
Yeah.
But we have 2 projects we're developing.
I would suggest choosing the one that you think is the most, like, it might be worth us jumping on a call so I can better understand how they're sort of related. But off the top of my head, I would say it's best to sort of apply with the one that you think is most sort of clearly a fintech, or fits within the sort of program and what we'd be able to help with. But maybe let's jump on a call and we can talk about it more specifically. But I would encourage focusing on one just off the top.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks. Okay, no other questions. I'm going to keep going, and we'll talk about curriculum. So format. So there's the online portion, which is the majority of the program, which includes one-on-one office hours with industry expert mentors, bi-weekly FC office hours, so meeting with myself and Maria, just to make sure that you're on track, and sort of we're addressing any questions that come up or any issues that come up in the program. We'll have a monthly mentor speed dating session and a monthly workshop and fireside chat virtually. For the in-person portion, so there's the kickoff July 27th and 28th in Toronto, which is 2 days of like workshops that are sort of very hands-on and sort of deliverable focused. Then mid-program, there'll be in-person touch point, a 1 day of workshops and an ecosystem tour, October 3rd and 4th, also in Toronto, and then the demo day in Montreal. And just to note that we do offer stipends for flights and accommodations as needed for in-person activities to make sure that costs are not a barrier for anyone who is participating. So we will cover flights and accommodation. Okay, so program journey. So as I mentioned, July 27th, 28th in person. There'll be sort of a brief period where we'll get you onboarded and make sure you're all set for the program, planning, goal setting, and sort of milestone setting for yourself. In August, we'll focus on, we then break the program down into sort of 4 sprints that I'm going to touch on. So there's the October 3rd and 4th, also in person, and then the demo day in November. But I'm going to touch on the kind of organization of the program. So the program is broken down into 4 kind of thematic sprints. August focused on product market fit, September on business model and startup fundamentals, October on product roadmap and customer acquisition, and November on growth and fundraising. So 4 months, 4 sprints, all structured around one-on-one support based on those themes. So you'll be paired with an industry expert to help guide you through a process of setting goals, identifying challenges, and creating a plan of action around that particular thematic sprint. So take August as a sample month. This is what August would look like in terms of your calendar. So July is the in-person sessions. We wrap those up. We head into August. We'll have a couple of weeks where you'll have time to get settled in the program. We'll make sure you're onboarded fully. You'll get your goal setting framework. We'll work on that with you in our first office hours in the first week of August. The office hours are just 20-minute check-ins every other week. You'll have a couple of weeks to work on that goal setting framework. We'll have a pitch workshop. So that's the one monthly workshop. You'll have a speed dating session following the pitch workshop. And then over the next, and you'll have a fireside chat that month as well. And then over the next 3 weeks of August, you'll be paired with your sort of industry expert mentor. You'll meet with them at least once, up to 3 times over those 3 weeks to sort of identify the challenges you're facing, be challenged a little on whether you think you've found product market fit, but if you're pre-Series A building a fintech, I would say that you probably haven't. And so they'll work to sort of challenge you on that and help you set some milestones and goals for yourself and create a plan to meeting those milestones and those goals. So there's approximate, I would say, 5 to 6 hours of time commitment over the course of 1 month. So it's not too significant. Obviously, in July and in October, when we have our in-person sessions, those will be a little bit heavier time commitments. And also just emphasizing again that, for example, if we're looking at, say, October, and you have like a head of product on your team, and you think that it would make the most sense for your head of product on your team to take part in the sessions in October because that's the focus, you are encouraged to have that person take part. So you're able to sort of spread those 6 hours of engagement over the team members as it makes the most sense. So maybe September, you have a CFO, and you want them to take part in the sessions in September because you sort of think that makes most sense. So you have some flexibility there. The in-person sessions, though, do have to be the founders participating. So at a high level, we've talked about milestone goal setting frameworks, interactive deliverable focused workshops, one-on-one meetings with expert mentors. We also have an archive of recorded workshops from past programs that you get access to, fireside chats, which are always really wonderful experiences with established startups and scale-up founders, pitch coaching, also access to design help for your pitch deck as we head towards demo day. And then, of course, the demo day itself. Okay, I'm going to pause again because that's I would say, the meat of the sort of program specific stuff. So before I head into the last part of the presentation, I want to make sure there's time for questions about the programming, eligibility, curriculum, anything at all.
Yeah, sorry, you said in-person events are for founders only. Can it be a combination, or is it like only founders?
Yeah, sorry. Yes, it can definitely be a combination of founders and other team members, but just that the founder has to be present for the in-person.
Got it. Clear.
Yeah. Anik.
Yes, I want to know, will also programming be in English, and does the project we submit be English and English only, or French speaker can apply? And
yeah, so the bulk of the program, like all of the programming, the workshops will be in English. Absolutely, French speaker can apply. We'll also, for the sort of one-on-one mentor pairing, if French is your first language and you're most comfortable dealing in, like speaking in French and receiving input and feedback in French, can work with you to pair you with a French speaker to the best of our abilities, but I can't make any guarantees because it is sort of based on the availability of our industry experts. Yeah.
Okay, but can the application be in French or in English, or it has to be in English?
You can complete the application in French, if possible, to do a rough translation in English. That's would be great so that it's easier for our full team to review, but you can complete the application in French.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Any?
We-
Yeah.
We have a question from Ben. Where and when is the in-person event?
So July 27th and 28th is the first one in Toronto. October 3rd and 4th is the second, also in Toronto. And November TBD for the date for the demo day will be in Montreal. And for anyone who may have come in after, I'll just emphasize again, we do provide, we do cover flights and accommodations as needed for startups who have to travel for any of those pieces. Yes, Edward. And please correct me if I'm pronouncing your name incorrectly.
Yes, Edouard. Well, sorry, Edward is good. Well, thank you so much for the information. Came a little late. When you will find out if you are accepted or not after completing the application form?
Yeah, great question. So I'm going to touch on it shortly, but the final, I'm off the top of my head, the final cohort is going to be announced July 14th, but I do have a slide. Let me see if I can just actually skip to. Okay, so here we go. So deadline to apply is June 12th. Interviews will take place throughout sort of over the course of June. And then, yes, July 14th is the sort of final acceptance date. So it'll be July 14th. And I'll go into the application, interview, etc. process shortly. Amir?
Thank you.
Thanks.
Hi, Molly. Thank you so much for the presentation. I just checked the dates that you were talking about it, and I know that my the MVP that I'm developing for my company, the team basically gave me a date that is just before the program starts, but definitely after the deadline. So I was wondering to what extent you guys are flexible with basically giving you the full application.
So if I'm understanding correctly, you're sort of currently in the process of building out the product or platform, and the date that by which it would be complete would be sort of after the deadline or after the start of the program. And so you're wondering, like, can you still apply essentially?
No, the MVP basically most likely would be available before the program starts, but it's definitely after the deadline that you guys have right now. So yes, the correct question is whether I still would be eligible to apply, let's say.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think if the MVP is going to be built before the program starts, I don't see an issue with that. I would just in the application, I think that if there's not space within one of the questions to sort of lay out a bit of a timeline of what that looks like, to do that within the question, or you also have the option of attaching additional documents. So you could attach like a sort of basic slide deck or kind of an additional document just outlining the timeline for that. And that wouldn't be no issue.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thanks. Ben?
Okay, I would like to ask, Can you please clarify on the full-time founder requirement?
Yeah, sorry. So the question is what around the full-time founder requirement, that if there's sort of flexibility there?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. So, yes, the answer is yes. There is flexibility there. We often have founders in the program who are working, essentially full time on their startups, but also working full time in other jobs in order to fund the building of their startups. And I recognize that is the case for many founders. We don't all have the privilege of being able to sort of quit our jobs and fully fund our startup journeys. So yes, there is definitely flexibility on the full time. It's more to say that that there needs to be a clear commitment to building the startup, a plan to go full time at some point, so that the startup is not a kind of off the side of your desk, maybe kind of thing, that you're able to sort of demonstrate a commitment to going full time at some point when that becomes feasible. Okay. So I'm going to jump back. I think we'll talk about applications. Yeah. Edouard.
Yeah, sorry. Edouard, is correct. One last question I have. If I'm already part of FinTech Skin this program, what is the hub? So would that contradict, or is it one or the other? How does that work?
Yeah, great question. So absolutely not. You can, they're not mutually exclusive. You can be part of the hub and part of IFH. The hub I think of as sort of a network. It's like a network or a subscription that you are part of as soon as you become involved as a startup in any of FinTech Cadence's programs. Like once you went through the IFH Lab, you would automatically become a member of the hub. And it's a way for you to get continued support, to access the sort of hub specific industry experts who offer office hours, to make sure that you're getting offers around discounts for conferences, et cetera, that we often get, and just to stay in touch. So not mutually exclusive. And anyone who does go through the IFH Lab program then becomes part of the hub upon graduation.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
So again, we have an amazing group of industry experts who we've worked with over the last 3 years and counting, and they're growing constantly. This is just a very, very small snapshot, but you'll meet many of them throughout the program. Our partners currently for the program are JP Chase, the City of Toronto, Meridian, and the Canadian Bankers Association. FinTech Cadence has other partners as well. TD, I'm going to forget them, so I'm not going to list them all, but you can check out our website to see our full list of partners on our website as well. I mentioned the service providers. So again, you can find a full list online at fintechcadence.com/service-providers. And if you check it out and there's any that aren't on there that you'd really love to see on there as a startup, let us know and we'll do the work. Just some testimonials from past cohort members. So I will leave you, I'll maybe send out the presentation and people can read those if they're interested, as well as from our industry experts. I think one of the most wonderful things about the program is that we have a group of industry experts who are truly dedicated to the program, who participate every year, who love participating in the program every year, and sharing their expertise with the startups that we work with. It's really wonderful to see. So interested in applying? Next steps. Application deadline is June 12th at noon. We'll make sure everyone has the link to the application if you don't already. So we're here at the info session. The deadline, June 12th, interviews will take place throughout June. So once you've applied, our team will review the applications. We shortlist a group of applications, usually about 15, 20 or so applications get shortlisted. And then we'll do one-on-one sort of 30-minute interviews with everyone. This year, I'm also doing alumni chats. So after the interview with the team, you'll have a chance to meet for 20 minutes or so in a sort of have a casual conversation with a past alumni of the program. And the reason I'm doing this is twofold. One, because it gives you a chance to chat with the founders who've gone through the program before, to ask them questions about their experience, and to find out, to help you sort of assess whether you would be a good fit for the program, based on, you know, their past experience and what they got from taking part in the program. And then it also gives us an opportunity to get an alumni perspective, and you know, they have, who better to tell us whether someone could benefit from the program than someone who has experienced the program firsthand. So it's just some additional information for us to help make the assessment, to make sure that you're going to get the most from the program, that it makes sense. We want to make sure that the people who are participating are going to get everything that they can from the program. And then July 14th is the acceptance date, when you find out that you've gotten in, and we'll start onboarding and doing all of that good stuff. Okay, so that is the info session. So I know we've had a few questions, but this is your last chance to ask questions here. Feel free also to reach out to me by email to set up a one-on-one meeting with me at any time. But is there any piece that anyone wants me to go back to or speak a little bit more about? Any final questions?
Molly, sorry, it's Edward here again. Do you have like a meeting link you could just drop in the chat? We could just maybe book a one-on-one with you.
Yes, I can do that.
Thank you.
Maria, do you have access? Do you have my Calendly link? If not, I will stop sharing. Okay. I'm going to stop sharing my screen. I will, yes, I will find that link and I'll put it in the chat. Any other questions while I look for that?
Hey, Molly, Harrison here, founder of Hover. We're not strictly a fintech company by any means, but I wanted to jump on and see what this is all about, because we do see a huge opportunity for like financial literacy of some of our users and our members of our app as we grow. So it's kind of twofold. Like, would it make sense for us if we have fintech like aspirations on our roadmap to join this year's cohort, or would it make more sense to kind of join maybe an ecosystem or a hub to be kind of exposed to some of the other, you know, fintech focused companies that could partner with us or support us on our journey?
Yeah, great question. I think if you're in the very early days of sort of exploring what kind of building out a fintech piece would look like for you, I would say it might make sense to start with the hub. And then down the line, when you have that piece built out, to look at a program like IFH or Ascension. Happy to jump on a call if you want to sort of speak more in depth about like where you're at in terms of product roadmap on that piece, to see if it makes sense. But my initial feeling is that it might make sense to start with the hub, and then look at applying a bit later on.
Okay, cool. Yeah, maybe I'll book a one-on-one with you so I can go into detail a little bit more and we can see what the right fit is together.
Awesome. And I have
thanks.
put that link in the chat for everyone.
Wonderful. Cheers.
Any last questions? I'm happy also to stay on here for a bit if folks want to chat one-on-one. Otherwise, I want to thank everyone for coming. It's great to meet all of you. Look forward to reading your applications or chatting with you one-on-one. Feel free to book something. The Calendly is in the chat, and reach out at any time with questions, and we'll send out the recording and the deck for you to review.